The iPhone's home screen and lock screen got some new customization options in iOS 18, and I've been playing around with my iPhone's home screen over the summer. It's been a while since I covered it, so I figured let's make a video about it. This video is sponsored by Bassius. Let's get into it. Let's start off by talking about the home screen. I just have one page of apps. I always have a focus mode on, but the app page never changes. Just the notifications that get through. I use the new large icon option in iOS 18, not because I like the look of the large icons, but because it gets rid of the text labels underneath. But one interesting side effect is it has enough space for another row of icons down at the bottom. I really wish Apple would give you that option to add more apps. I also use the new dark mode theme. This gives all of my icons a dark mode look, but I don't dim the wallpaper. The wallpapers I use are images I have shot and edited myself, mostly of nature and architecture. If you're interested, I have links in the description below to my wallpaper pack and everything else I mentioned in the video. The apps on my home screens are the ones I use the most. Mail is, well, my email app. It doesn't have some crazy philosophy or a bunch of collaboration features in it, but that's kind of why I like it. I get a ton of email and I just need to be able to quickly go through and swipe to archive something or deal with it quickly. Fantastical is my calendar app. I tried moving away from it after their last price increase, but I never really found anything that I loved as much. I tried using the free tier of Fantastical, but the app is just so good and there are so many great features that the subscription unlocks. Now, one reason why I'm totally okay with going back to the subscription of Fantastical is I actually took all of my video project task management out of things and I put it into Airtable. I needed something a little more robust. In Airtable, you can actually set it up so that the Airtable calendar with all of your production schedule or whatever actually syncs with either like Google Calendar or iCloud or whatever. So this way I'm actually able to get my Airtable production calendar in Fantastical, and a side effect of that is I'm also able to get it into the widget as well. Another feature I really love about Fantastical is calendar sets. Calendar sets give you the ability to hide certain calendars, whether it's like you just want to see work stuff at work time and then when you get home you just want to see your personal stuff. That's great. I set it up so that I have a secrets calendar that doesn't show up when I'm filming my devices. That way I don't accidentally leak an embargo or a meeting or something like that. The next apps are a group of 4. These are my photo and video apps. The first is Kino. This is a professional video capture app. I started a new short series that I'm posting a couple of times a week. It's a behind the scenes series that's all about the devices I use, apps I use, some tips and tricks, things like that. I film all of it in Kino. Because it's a short series, I just wanted to film it on my phone and I film it all in Kino. I have a ton of controls over capture and can quickly change the format for stuff like frame rate or codec. But what I love about Kino is its built-in color grade tools. Since I'm using this for fast capture and I'm wanting to turn around this short series as quickly as possible, I don't want to spend a whole day on one short. So I don't want to sit there and have to color grade a bunch of log footage. I really like, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong because I have no idea how to pronounce it, the Glostrup look, but they're all really good. You can even choose to have the grade baked in, but if you do this, make sure you're exposing properly when you capture. Kino also works with third-party accessories like external mics. I've been using the DJI wireless mic system lately for these shorts. Kino works great for run-and-gun shooting styles like what I'm doing for this series. Next to Kino is Halide, made by the same developers. Halide is a professional photography app. Again, it gives me a ton of controls over shooting. I jump between this and the other third-party camera app, Obscura, a lot. Halide just recently added a feature I fell in love with. Process Zero. It shoots a raw image and does very minimal film-like process to the image. It looks beautiful. I've been enjoying these photos a lot more than the ones that are taken from the first-party camera app. Those tend to apply a very heavy HDR look to them that I'm not a fan of. If it's a photo I'm going to edit myself, I switch from Process Zero to the normal RAW mode. If I am going to edit a photo, I do it all in Lightroom. It has the controls I want and gives me the results I need. I've built a few presets myself and usually start from here when editing. Then I go in and adjust the white balance, the lighting, and the colors. I will often use masks to clean up skies, subjects, and the background. Lightroom does a great job at detecting what the subject is and generating a mask for it. You can even long press on that mask and select duplicate and invert. This way you can edit the background of your photo. Lightroom added an AI retouch tool that is actually really good. I use it to clean up some buoys that were in a lake and some people on a beach. I use Lightroom not just for my photography and thumbnails, but for personal stuff as well. If you're interested in getting into editing photos, I highly recommend just downloading Lightroom and putting in a photo and just playing with the slider. Now, I do recommend you take raw photos because raw photos have more data built into them. You can recover highlights and shadows a lot easier than a normal JPEG. The last app in the Photos and Videos group is Photos. Surprise, right? I really like the new iOS 18 design. I talk about it a lot more in my iOS and iPadOS 18 walkthrough, so I'll save it for that video. This video is sponsored by Baseus. This is the Baseus Security N1 outdoor camera system. This is a wireless camera system with excellent image quality. It has an incredibly easy installation. It comes with all the mounting brackets you need. The cameras themselves are even wireless. They have a built-in battery that gets 210 days of battery life. This is especially important if your power goes out. They have a crystal clear image of every detail. The cameras have a 2K sensor that support up to 8x zoom with a 140-degree field of view so you can see everything. There's no blind spots. The security system will detect if there are any people or vehicles around and notify you. You can set up activity zones as well so you aren't getting false notifications. Plus, they have a built-in two-way audio system so you can speak to anyone around.
Open up the garage door for you.
Baseus believes in your privacy. That is why all the footage is stored and encrypted locally with TÜV Rheinland certification. It has a 16 gigabytes of built-in storage but can be expanded up to 16 terabytes. There are no hidden fees and no monthly subscriptions. The system comes with 2 cameras and a base station. I'm going to put some links in the description below to where you can go check it out. My thanks to Baseus for sponsoring this video. Now, if we jump back to the start of this row, and I promise it's the only time I'm going to do this, here we have my audio apps. First up is music. I really like Apple Music over Spotify for the little touches, because at the end of the day, both Apple Music and Spotify have the same content in it. It really doesn't matter which one you use, it's gonna have the same music in it. But there's stuff in Apple Music like the animated albums that I really like. But the thing that keeps me coming back is Dolby and spatial audio support. When spatial audio support came out, not a lot of people knew how to mix for it, and it wasn't very good, but music producers have gotten very good at it over the last few years. Go listen to the remastered version of Dark Side of the Moon. I've listened to that album dozens of times before, and there were things in the spatial audio version that I picked up that I'd never heard before. It was wild. Overcast is my podcast player. It recently got a major update. It was a very polarized update, I think is fair to say. Some really good stuff, some not so great. But the developers worked really hard over the last few weeks to get it up to that high quality, and it shows. Something I love about Overcast that I haven't been able to replicate in other podcast apps is the customizable playlists. So the way I handle my podcast queue is I set up a playlist where every show that I subscribe to, all the episodes come in here. It gets sorted from oldest to newest, but then I can go into the playlist settings and prioritize certain shows. I prioritize new shows so that they always go to the top. It also has the best version of Smart Speed and Voice Boost. A lot of other podcast players have features like this. They're always named something different, but they do the same thing. But none of them seem to match Overcast. Shortcuts is my system automation app. I have a bunch of videos about how I use it. I'll link to those and everything else I mentioned in the description below. But I use Shortcuts to do a whole bunch of different things. Push updates to my websites, create notes with websites linked to it, do project management, and even task manager templates. Sequel is an app I've been using for media tracking. What I like about this is it supports movies, TV shows, games, and books. You can use it to track upcoming releases of all of those. When a new piece of media is released, Sequel will send you a notification reminding you about it. Then when you finish with something, you can mark it as completed and it logs it. But I also just use Sequel to remind me about movies or shows that have been out for years or even decades that I want to check out. You can build custom collections in Sequel. I've been using one to create a list of my all-time favorite games. Sequel also syncs with Track, so you can use multiple media tracking apps if you wish. As somebody that really likes books, movies, TV shows, games, I love having a media tracking app because I just can't remember all the stuff I want to check out or when things are coming out. So this does a good job of kind of being that part of my brain for me. Reader has been my go-to RSS client for a while now, but recently it got an entirely new version. This new version is focused on unifying your timeline. This doesn't just include RSS, but also Mastodon, Reddit, podcast, YouTube channels, and more. It has a home tab with all of your feeds, so you can just scroll through and see what's going on. You can tap on an item to check it out. Now, I'm not 100% sold on these unified timeline apps. I like having everything in one place, but sometimes a lot of different stuff can be happening. You just have to be really good at using the read later functionality. Speaking of, I use raindrop.io for all of my read later use cases, even stuff from Reader. I use this over the built-in Reader feature because I find stuff all over the web I want to check out later. I also use this as a place to store useful links, stuff I want to buy or check out for later, or things I want to cover here on my channel or my podcast. What I like about raindrop.io is I can set it up so that when I tap on something, it just opens in the correct app. Meaning if it's just a regular URL, it'll open in Safari, or if it's an app, it opens in the App Store, or if it's like a Mastodon post, it opens in Ivory. I store a lot of links, and being able to organize them into collections and with tags is really handy. Raindrop.io also has a really good built-in search feature so I can quickly pull up a link. There's actually a lot you can do with this app, and you can get pretty deep with it. I think I'm going to make a whole dedicated video about it once the whole iPhone and review season's over. Maps is next up. I need to get around. Maps has actually gotten really good the last few years, and earlier this year when I was in New York, I actually got to try all the transit stuff for the first time, and getting around New York is not easy, but Maps gave you very good, clear directions, and we never got lost. The next 3 apps are all my social stuff: Threads, Ivory for Mastodon, and Discords. Threads has been okay, but the algorithm has gotten very engagement baity. I like Mastodon because that's where all the heavy computer nerd stuff is right now. Ivory is a great client that has one feature that other Mastodon clients seem to struggle to replicate: timeline syncing between devices. If I jump between my iPhone and my iPad, I never lose my spot. Discord is for team stuff. Comfort Zone, my podcast, is a part of Mac Stories, and all the Mac Stories team chats in Discord. And it's just a nice way to chat with a group of people. Safari is my web browser of choice. Since Apple restricts browsers outside of the EU to use the WebKit engine, it doesn't really matter what web browser you use on your iPhone. They're basically all reskin versions of Safari. But I do like Safari for a few features. First, reader mode. I love reader mode. When I'm reading an article, I can just block everything else that's distracting out of the way. I also really like the new tab page. Something about this is just fast. I can grab a bookmark or a link somebody sent me. I also really like the URL bar being at the bottom. It just is where my thumb is and I can tap right on it. But the other features I like about Safari are tab groups and profiles. I use tab groups whenever I'm researching something, and profiles to separate out my personal, YouTube channel, and comfort zone stuff. So this way I'm not constantly having to log out of different accounts and log back in. Things is my task manager of choice. I've talked about it a bunch and made dedicated videos on it. Like I mentioned, recently I moved my video project management out of there. Now it's a much more focused, single task manager. But the thing that always has me coming back to Things is its great design, amazing shortcut support, the ability to quickly add a task, and it's a really good search feature. Obsidian is where I do all my writing and note-taking. I just put out a huge video covering how I use it, and I'll link to that below. Obsidian is a plain text editor that has support for Markdown. It's incredibly fast and flexible to work with. It also supports third-party plugins and theming. Messages is the last app in the dock. Not entirely sure I need to explain this one. At the very top of this page is a widget stack. This has the Apple Music Now Playing widget and the Overcast widget. I like to see the album artwork of what's playing when listening to music, and the Overcast widget is great for quickly resuming playback. But the real reason that a stack is here is it makes it easy to add extra widgets quickly. It makes this space much more flexible. For years, I ignored the Today view. I just put all my widgets on my home screen, but it was getting to the point where I had about 4 different pages of home screens, and I just didn't like that. I went ahead and moved almost all of my widgets to the Today view. The widgets I like here are ones that kind of give me a summary of what's going on. When I built this out, what I realized is I basically got a whole summary of my day in the Today view. Wild, I know. What I have here is a weather widget for Carrot Weather, then a stack, Parcel my delivery tracker, Sequel for what I should watch next, and batteries. Then Fantastical for appointments, and the large things widget for everything I need to do today. I really like this summary of my day. It's the first thing I look at on my phone in the morning. I use the same two widgets on all of my lock screens. First is the things for showing me my tasks due today. The second is Fantastical for showing me my next event of the day. If you can't tell, Things and Fantastical are probably the most important apps on my devices. I can get tunnel view very easily and just block out everything else around me and just get focused on one thing. And because of that, I can miss appointments or miss a task that's due. So basically, wherever I can have my task manager and my calendar in front of me, I'm gonna put it in front of me. But thanks to iOS 18, the controls at the bottom of my lock screens change depending on which lock screen and focus I'm using. For example, on my personal focus, I have Obscura set up so I can take a high-quality RAW photo quickly. Then on the left side, I have the Apple TV remote, mostly because somebody in my house tends to misplace remotes, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. For my filming focus, I have the Open App Action. This jumps into Kino. Then I have a shortcut that triggers playing music to my HomePods in my studio. I use this a lot when I'm filming B-roll. For my work focus, I have two shortcuts. One that runs my Task Cut shortcut, and another that runs my Capture Cut shortcut. Right now I have the camera control button set to open the default Apple Camera app. This way I can use all the new features quickly, but after I finish my iPhone review, I will probably switch the camera control to open either Obscura or Halide. So that's what's on my iPhone. I want to hear from you all. Let me know what some of your favorite iPhone apps are, widgets, lock screen controls. Let me know in the comments below. My thanks to Bassius for sponsoring this video. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't already, and have a great day.